Let me start by making clear that when I talk about the best videos to watch, the best teaching videos to watch for your artwork development, what I mean is the videos that will take your art experience, practice, furthest, fastest, and in the most enjoyable way. And it doesn't really matter what area of art you practice in, these questions will all apply. Of the 12 questions, 11 of them are questions to ask of any video that we watch. But the first one is one we need to ask ourselves because that sets us up for all of the other questions, or more the case, for the answers to those questions. And that is, what am I wanting to learn? What is it that I want to receive from the videos I watch? And the more specifically we can answer this, the more bullet points we can end up with for this question, the easier it will be to answer the other questions from the videos that we watch. What skills am I wanting to learn? Perhaps the most helpful question to ask is, where do I want to be at the end of this learning process? Or at least the end of this current learning period? What do I want to be able to do? And anything that fits into this answer is a great contribution to knowing what videos to watch. What media do I want to use? Am I wanting to splash watercolor, draw with charcoal? Am I wanting to do abstracts? Am I wanting to do animation? Am I wanting to do hyper-realistic images of some sort? The more clearly I see what I want to be producing at the end of this period, the more easily I can ask the right questions and come to the right answers about the videos that will help me get to that place most effectively. I might know I want to learn a foreign language, but it helps me to know whether it's Indonesian or German or Spanish before I start watching videos. But now, the first of the questions that we ask of the videos that we're watching. Is the presenter, whether they're on camera or whether they're a voice that comes over the top of some sort of visual, is the presenter a good teacher? Are they a teacher? Because if I'm wanting to learn, a good teacher is a great way to go. And a good teacher isn't the same as being very entertaining. It's not the same as being a good artist. A good teacher is able to teach, to convey. When I'm with a good teacher or a teacher who's a good teacher for me, I end up learning. And for whatever time I invest in watching any of these videos, I certainly want to maximize my chance of absorbing learning that's going to impact the way my art looks. I think it's helpful to think back to our school days where we probably had a range of teachers, some of whom we found very entertaining, very enjoyable to share the class time with, but who possibly weren't particularly good teachers. We had other teachers who we did well and we learnt a lot in their lessons, but they perhaps weren't particularly the most interesting teachers we could have had. And if it was a subject such as PE or music or art, we may have had great teachers who weren't the best in terms of their own performance, but they were able to bring the best out of others because they were good teachers. It's a mistake to think, well, I have no way of knowing whether someone's a good teacher because we each do. A good teacher will teach us. We will learn from them. And this may not be obvious before we watch a video, but even after one, and certainly after a couple of videos, it should be obvious. We need to trust our instinct. And if we're wanting to learn, not be distracted by presenters who are more entertainers or artists rather than teachers. And maybe we'll even find some videos, some channels where we have a good teacher who's entertaining and who's also a good artist. But whichever way it goes, I believe these are very helpful issues to be considering in our mind as we're watching and choosing what we watch. Question number 2 to ask is the presenter, is the teacher, even if I think they're a good teacher, are they a teacher that I can engage with? Can I listen easily to their voice, to the way they say things? Is the language they use easy for me to understand? Do I find that I stay connected with what they're saying because they're saying it in a way that I don't get distracted and wander off in some way? But it's not just the language, it's the skill level that they're talking about, that they're demonstrating, that they're giving teaching in. Is that appropriate for where I'm at as well? Because if in the end I don't connect very well with the teacher when they're teaching, it's going to be hard to get best use of that time. This fourth question might take a little explaining, but it basically is this real art teaching for me, or is it what I think of as placebo teaching? And by placebo teaching, I mean when the video gives us things to do, maybe doing lots of little exercises, hatching lines in certain directions in little boxes or something, that makes us feel like we've done something, makes us feel that we've accomplished something. But, well, I got to say, from my point of view, look pretty pointless when done in isolation from any other consideration. They might make me feel better in some way. They may make me feel that somehow I've advanced my drawing skills when really I've just taken up time doing something that didn't challenge me or test me at all, and something which quite possibly I have no real understanding as to how I'm going to use it anyway. I just end up with a sheet of paper with something on it. What we've done is we've trusted the video, we've trusted the teacher that somehow this is going to be helpful. But I've had students tell me over and over again how they've done these things, thought they were helpful, but somehow were never able to connect it with any artwork that they were then doing. And unfortunately, what tends to happen in these circumstances is that the person who's watched the video, who's done the exercises, who feels this way, somehow feels that the deficit is within them, that, well, I just couldn't have understood it properly, or I just can't be smart enough, instead of actually realizing that the problem was in the video. The problem was in what was presented and the way it was presented. Don't rush to think that you're the problem if there's an issue applying what's in a video to your artwork. Not all videos are necessarily good videos. This next question is a very simple one to ask and I think to answer as well. And that's, when I watch the video, does the teacher make themselves look really smart, really intelligent? Or do they make it sound as if the teaching is actually really simple? Because a good teacher, and therefore I think a good video, will take a concept which can be quite complex, can even be quite sophisticated in a fundamental way, but present it in a way that it seems quite straightforward, that it seems simple, in a way that makes the people watching the video think, oh gosh, that's so obvious. I almost didn't need to watch the video to understand that. Gosh, how did I not see this before myself? It seems so obvious now. These reactions to the content are signs of a good teacher. On the other hand, if I'm left thinking, oh gosh, that sounds really complex, they must be really clever, well, maybe they are or aren't, but leaving that impression with the students is not the sign of good teaching. The next question to ask is, having watched this video, do I feel empowered to have a go? Am I wanting to have a go? Am I thinking, yep, I've got this, I can see this, it's relevant, I understand it, I feel I can do it, I really want to put it into practice. I want to pick up my pen or my brush, my whatever. Because this is a natural consequence of good teaching. Now, this next question to ask, I think, is a really important one and a very fundamental one in deciding, is this a good teacher to listen to? Possibly, is this a good channel to watch? And that is, has the teaching I've just received enabled me to create my own original artworks using what I've learned? Or am I really only equipped to reproduce what I've seen in the demo? Because good teaching doesn't tell us what to do. It helps us to understand all the things connected with what we're wanting to do, with the processes to do it, wherever they start, wherever they end up. What the options are, how to choose between the options, how to start and progress what we're doing, the issues involved, the possible outcomes. Good teaching always explains the reasons for doing things, gives us understanding so that we can then use that understanding and apply it to whatever specific art situation we find ourselves facing. This next question kind of relates to and flows on from the previous one, and it relates particularly to videos where a demo is done, where we see the teacher actually producing an artwork, and that is, if a reference is being used, in other words, unless this artwork is being produced from the imagination of the teacher, of the artist doing the presentation, can I see the reference all the time? Because producing an artwork from a reference is, I think, more like translation work than anything else. We're seeing something in one form and we're translating it into a different language, a language of paint involving color and value and edges and all sorts of things. Or if we're drawing, it's using line in certain ways, carefully manipulating the lines, how we draw them, how we combine them, the materials that we use to produce those lines, to produce certain effects. But if I just see these certain effects appear on the video, but I don't see what's being translated from, I don't see the starting point that gets translated through the artist's mind creatively into these marks or these brushstrokes, these colors, these values, whatever, then I lose a huge amount of understanding as to what's happening. If I can see the reference as well as seeing how the artist brings that reference to life in an artwork, then even if they're not particularly expert perhaps at explaining their process, explaining the creative thoughts and choices that they're making, I have a chance of actually at least seeing them myself. And I can possibly work out and go, oh, I see. Yes, when I looked at the photo, I wondered how they were going to represent that in the artwork. And now I can see the way they've used these materials, which creates the effect of what I've seen in the reference in a different way, but in an effective way in the artwork. Just watching an artwork appear in a demo as if magic might be impressive, but in my experience, it's a very, very poor learning experience. And if my aim is to be taught, it might not be the best use of my time. There may be more helpful demonstration videos that I could put my time into. This next question may require a little more reflection than some of the others, but is this teacher and this teaching, this way of teaching that they particularly have, is it compatible with the other teachings that I watch? If you like, with the other channels that I watch? Because particularly if a channel is made up of videos from the one person, there is going to be, in all likelihood, a single frame of thinking, a single approach that filters through all of the teaching, all of the videos. And it's not a case of, is it good or bad? But it's a recognition of the fact that different approaches, different ways of presenting information, of techniques, can be very helpful for different people, for different approaches, for different artistic outcomes. That not every approach in every way will be helpful for every person as much as it is for possibly some other people. But the biggest danger is that I don't realize this, and I watch a video, I watch a channel where maybe the approach is not compatible with several channels, several teachers whose videos I've been watching. And what happens then is I start to get confused because one teacher is leading me in one approach and yet another teacher is leading me in an incompatible approach. And well, I'm going to start to get confused. And again, it's easy to think, well, gosh, they're the teachers. They must know what they're on about. What they're doing must be okay. I must have the problem. I must not be able to work out what they're saying well enough. When in fact, I'm not the problem. The problem is simply that one or more of these video approaches doesn't work in with, if you like, the path I've already embarked on in my art journey. Another very simple question to be asked, but perhaps the simplicity means it's easy to overlook asking it. Is my artwork actually improving from these videos I've been watching? So I don't mean after one video, but over time. And when I say over time, well, I guess it depends how many videos from the one teacher there are to watch that I'm watching, but I'm assuming that at some point we choose certain channels that we tend to stick with. And the question is, has my drawing improved? If I think back to that first question, where am I wanting to end up in my art practice from watching these videos? Have I got there? Am I closer to there than I was? Do I feel more empowered? Do I feel more able to see the issues and in some way to address the issues in my artwork, however that is expressed? If the answer is yes, and there are more videos to watch that are helpful, then great, that gives me some direction. If the answer is, I'm not so sure, then maybe it's time to choose some other videos to watch or at least to explore what's out there. It's not a judgment on good or bad, but it's simply making the choice consciously to watch the videos that I feel are going to take my artwork to that place that I would like it to be. Look, it may be from watching certain videos we change where we want our artwork to go because we can see new possibilities that we didn't know enough to even see at the start. And that's all great. The question is, am I moving in a direction right now from these that I'm happy to, wanting to be moving in? This next question really applies to when I settle into a channel or several channels and I start to immerse myself in their videos rather than where I just watch one or two teachings videos by a particular person. But when I'm letting myself now sit in quite a considerable way under the teaching of a certain channel, a certain approach, a certain way of thinking, because I feel like it's going to be helpful, and that means to the exclusion of at least some other options I might watch, is it comprehensive? Am I getting the full range of teaching that's going to be helpful for me for my art journey? Now, this is obviously going to include technical skills, whether it's how to put paint onto a canvas in the way I want, or whether it's line work, line techniques. But it's going to be a mix of big picture things, big picture theory of understanding, as well as quite detailed, quite specific, very highly practical tips, ideas, advice, demonstrations as well. And not just these, but perhaps also at least at times touching on parts of the emotional journey of being an artist. And if we've been in that space for very long, as an artist being creative, we know it can be a roller coaster of emotions for all sorts of reasons. And these can often be a bigger issue for us than the technical skills of actually producing our work. So is there anything on this channel from this teacher that helps me with any of those things as well? Because there's more to creating artworks than just learning technical skills. And this final point, if in the video, the teacher, the presenter, the artist is demonstrating an artwork or using their artworks as examples, as explanations of what's been said, do their artworks give me confidence that they know what they're saying? Do their artworks show that they've in fact progressed on this art journey some distance past where I am right now in a way that can give me confidence that in fact this is a worthwhile place to sit, at least for a while? Now, a good teacher doesn't have to be the best artist. A good coach doesn't have to be the best player or doesn't have to have been the best player. But we might be cautious about what a coach who has never played the game they're coaching us in says, as opposed to one who had a very reasonable career, a very reasonable time in that particular game. In the end, the important thing is the impact of the teaching on my artwork. But I think it's still helpful to see the artwork of the teacher as part of the way we assess their overall teaching approach. We get to see in their artwork where it takes you when this teaching is applied. And that then means we can line up with where we're wanting to go ourselves. And if you like, it's a double confirmation of, is this taking me to the place I want to get to with my artwork? G'day, I'm Travers. As a former high school teacher, not art, let me say, but as a trained teacher, I'm very aware of the learning process and of the teaching process. And I'm very aware that while there are lots of entertaining drawing and art videos out there, they're not always necessarily the best teaching videos for the student. In the end, though, we get to and we need to choose the ones that are going to help our own art journey in the way we want. But hey, whatever videos you end up watching, and however much they do or don't help your art, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.